I'm Betty.
And I'm Ariel.
And we will be manning the aquatics station at the Southwest Florida Envirothon academic event in Fort Myers. When you come to our station, you will notice as soon as you get our exam that most of the questions come directly from the study guide. However, there are certain questions where we're going to ask you to demonstrate your knowledge of aquatic systems by completing a few field activities.
For this test, we will be using the Lamont Green low-cost water quality testing kit. So you can look in this booklet and this will give you the directions on how to test for the parameter that we ask for. Examples of parameters we may ask for are pH, or phosphorus, or nitrogen, or nitrates. So what you'll do is we will provide water in a container like this or similar to this, and you will fill it into a vial at the recommended amount that's in the directions depending on the parameter that we ask for. And you will take a tablet of the parameter and you'll put it into that sample, and just according to the directions let that tablet mix with the sample, and then you will wait until it changes the color, and you will take the color, this color code depending on all the different parameters. It has phosphate, nitrate, pH, and you will compare the color that the water changed to the color on this key. So as you can see in this example provided, the water color changed to a really light blue, and you'll see here for phosphate, this is what we were testing for, it's even lighter than this value right here. So in this example, you would put less than 1 parts per million, or like small traces. So that's the water quality. Salinity is the parameter used to test the saltiness in the water. So in order to do that, you will use a refractometer like this. So all you will need to do is we'll provide you a sample of water, and you'll take this pipette and you'll take the sample of water and you will put that sample onto this blue glass right here on the refractometer. You'll close that lid and you will look through the refractometer up into light. And from there you'll be able to read what the salinity is. So when you place the eyepiece up to your eye, you will be looking at this, basically this screen. So wherever the white level is what the salinity is. And you will want to be looking at this side, which is the parts per thousand, and not this side. This is specific gravity. Your values could range anywhere from 0 to natural, like ocean water, salty water is around 35 to 38 parts per thousand. So that your value could range anywhere between there. And just a reminder, for any of the water quality tests, 0 is still a science, it's still data, and it's still a value. So don't think we're tricking you, or even if you did the test right, 0 still might be an answer.
Okay, another lab activity that we might have you do is identify aquatic vegetation. And to do this, we're going to give you a specimen of aquatic vegetation that could be either saltwater vegetation or freshwater aquatic vegetation. And we're going to ask you to identify it using several pages from field keys. So this is an example of hempweed, and hempweed is often found in aquatic environments. And so you would need to know the terms that you're frequently going to find in field keys. So this one here tells me that hempweed, it says it's a herbaceous climbing vine, and certainly you can tell that this is a vine. Leaves are opposite, so opposite on the stems, and somewhat heart-shaped. And if you look at the leaf, you can see that it is heart-shaped. It has an inflorescence, that's going to be your flower, that is stalked of clusters of white to pinkish florets. And it says ray florets, meaning those big petals, are lacking. And then the fruit is black, and there's actually an example of the fruit coming on here, and you can see that it is indeed black. Says flowering time is January through December, so throughout the year, so this certainly could be that, and then it gives examples of where it might be found. So in this exercise, if we give you a field key, we might give you 4 different examples, and only one is going to line up to the specimen that we hand you. So it's really important for you to know the different parts of plants and be able to recognize them when you see them in a field book. For the benthic invertebrate portion of your test, you know that different species of benthic invertebrates and mollusks are indicators of water quality. So some may do really well in good water quality only, whereas others may be found in good to fair water quality or fair to poor water quality. For our field exercise, we may ask you to identify a benthic invertebrate or mollusk species and then tell us what type of water quality that species is indicative of. So for this example, we're using a crayfish as our example, and we would have you identify it using a basic taxonomic key. This is an example of the taxonomic key that we would have you use. So if you look at it and you look at our specimen, the first number 1 is the macroinvertebrate has segmented or jointed legs. And if you look at our specimen, you can see that indeed it does have jointed legs. So this is telling us to go on to question 2. And question 2 starts out by saying the macroinvertebrate has more than 6 legs. And if we look, starting with the claw, that's 1, and working our way down, 2, 3, 4, 5, we have 5 on each side, so 10 legs total, then that is also true, and it's telling us to go to number 4. If it had 6 legs, it would tell us to go to number 5. So moving on to number 4, it says the macroinvertebrate has a body that is shrimp-like and moves quickly. And this certainly is shrimp-like, although it's a specimen that's no longer alive, so we don't know how fast it moved. But since it is shrimp-like, we're going to move on to number 6. And finally, it says the macroinvertebrate has a shrimp-like body and a fan-shaped tail. And if I turn this just ever so slightly, you can see that fan-shaped tail. And so it's telling us to go on to number 7, and number 7 tells us the macroinvertebrate is a crayfish, and it gives us some indications about it. So crayfish would be your first answer, and then it would be your job to know what kind of water quality crayfish are indicative of. The last thing we want to leave you with is to let you know a little bit about ourselves and the fact that we have really cool jobs. So both of us are marine biologists. I work for the University of Florida for the Florida Sea Grant College program as an extension agent in Charlotte County. And my job is predominantly outreach and education with non-traditional or adult and youth audiences. I do a lot of workshops, I do a lot of classes, I do quite a bit of field-related activities, citizen science, where we go out and we do some monitoring. So it gets me out on the water, it gets me in various places. I get to work with really cool people like fishermen and boating enthusiasts, and it's a good time. So if that sounds interesting to you, talk to me when you see me at the event.
And I work for the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, the Charlotte Harbor Aquatic Preserves. So Lemon Bay, Matlacha Pass, Pine Island Sound, all of Charlotte Harbor, and Cape Hayes, those are all aquatic preserves. There are 41 throughout the state. At the office I work at, we do water quality monitoring, seagrass monitoring, bird rookery monitoring. We also have a citizen science program where we have volunteers do water quality monitoring. I work with the public, we do outreach, and I am also out on the water often. So if you have any questions, feel free to come up to me, ask me my education background, what a normal day looks like for me, and I'd be more than happy to answer your questions.
Thanks for visiting.
Thank you.
See you at the event.